All right, back on the red one again. We got everything cleaned up in here, and we are actually working on getting everything torn down. We have the front struts removed. We're working on getting the inner and outer tie rods removed. Our lower control arms. I noticed when we had this apart, we had a bit. Look at this here. Bit of play in both of our wheel bearings. I got them pulled off. Working on this one here, the back bolt seems like it's going to be a little tight, so we're going to be we left that soak in some stuff. We got the new Russell brake lines to install on this. I have everything torn off the rear. We're going Russell lines back here. It does have an aftermarket rear sway bar. These did come out pretty easy. Right there. Okay. Now here's the old struts. It looks like they had the tops replaced. You know, just worn, battered, and time for something new. So right now we're getting ready to unbox. Here's everything for our front end. Control arms, tie rod ends, all that good stuff. Alright, here's our box with BC coilovers. Alright, there we go, check them out. Okay, so the rears are going to be the longer of the two. This one here is the right rear. I'm going to grab anti-seize, I'm going to grab a tape measure, and I'm going to measure these out and set them up the way that I normally do. Alright, so the lower was a little tight, so basically I just took this, gave it a little tap with the hammer. I'm going to remove this whole lower part here. Now this actually, when you adjust this, this actually will adjust the height of the vehicle. Alright, completely removed. All I'm going to do is I'll take anti-seize and I'll put it in these threads, and this will keep this coil so that it can be adjusted for a long portion of its life. This is kind of a pain, but you know, if you want these things to stay nice, if you drive a car all the time, in 2 or 3 years, these things are going to look like they've been on there a decade. Local to me up here in, well, Pennsylvania. So now if you're worried about getting your hands coated, you could do a little bit on the bottom and then screw the base in so far, like that, and then finish painting it. That's the best way to say it. Finish giving it a paint job. You don't have to be too picky. The more you get on there, the better for the long term. Alright, I'm going to finish getting this coated, and I'll grab the tape measure and I'll show you what height I set the rears to. Alright, so I got this set in. Basically, where this was set, I'm right around 5 inches, but I try to go by the top up here. So down to here, at the top of this, I'm at 8 inches. I'm going to make the other one on the other side match that. And then, like I said, I've got this thing installed. So we just need to get this thing spun around here. This is usually never fun. All right, there we go. When I install these, as you notice, it's always on a weird angle. So what I like to do is I'll actually take this, I'll push in on this, I'll jack the jack here, which helps twist this in. All right, and then I can get my bolts lined up and stick them through. Usually set a piece of wood on top, and then I come against these. It helps to kick this in, and usually I'll tap on it with something that way I don't damage my coating on my lower boot. I'll use this maybe to get into my hole, or a flathead screwdriver to just get it over a little bit. And then I usually start with the lower bolt, and then I can get this kicked in just far enough I can get the top on. I'll get my nuts on. I'm getting ready to install our brake hose. All right, here we go. Lines on. Everything's ready to be bled out. Our coil is set. Everything's tight on the inside. We are still waiting on our short end links for this. Man, that aftermarket sway bar is really close to that. So, anyway, we're going to go get the other side done, and then we'll be working on the front. Alright, so I was saying we pretty much have the rear done. We got some of the stuff I just got set in here. I did, if you take a look, you can see that we got some of that stuff coated up. But over here, on the driver's side, I already have my inner and outer tie rod installed. I also have the lower control arm. And on top of that, I got the bearings pressed out. Took the time, ground up all the flat surfaces, got everything nice and clean, even painted the replacement rings. One side was a little cleaner than the other, but these will help preserve them for quite a while now. This is the brand that I ordered. These are right around 100 bucks. I've used them time and time again, which is why I got these over the even cheaper ones. So basically, we're going to work on getting the bearing pressed in, and then you can install your plate, and then we'll get our hub installed and seated down. And then we can work on getting the spindle installed here for this side, along with the coilover. Now, don't get me wrong, we're still going to have to keep stuff like hanging apart because we got to drop the motor in and we'll be putting axles in. But we need to get it to a point where we can actually set this thing down on the ground. We do have our brake hoses that we are going to be installing, along with, like I said, flushing the entire system. What else do we get here? We have, I picked up some pen grade break-in oil, and we got a new battery for the car. So we have those are ready to go. There's a couple things I'm going to be having to go through here yet. We're still waiting on our rear end links and our turbo kit. So we still have some time to get this stuff done. I still have some time. I got to pull the as soon as I get this thing done, as far as to this point, I'm going to detail up some more other things and maybe get a couple things stuck onto the motor. But we're kind of at the point right now where I'm still waiting for the turbo kit, as I was saying. And we're going to push this thing out. We're going to get the transmission in. I'm going to pull the transmission apart. We're going to work on getting that gear set and that nice 23 spline input shaft in it. Alright, so this is what they look like after you get the bearing pressed in the way it's supposed to be. What I like to do is I make sure I have a socket that's large enough for that. So I'll take this and I'll set it this way. Basically, I'll build it up so that it'll sit on here like that, okay? And the only thing that I'm pressing against is this bearing. And then I'll take this and we'll press that down through. And most of the time I'll put a socket. It'll tip over on me. I'll put a socket there in the middle and I'll press it down here on the good old Harbor Freight press. I'll show you what they look like when they're done. There you go. Nice and firm, no play, spins good. I'm gonna get the other one done and we'll get this stuff assembled onto the car. So basically the same as we did for the rear. We're gonna put anti-seize all over this coilover too. Like I said, keeps them from getting rusty, which doesn't take long on a car that's driven. in any kind of weather, and makes it so you can adjust it down the road in the future. Another thing I wanted to note was, if you ever put these on new, always take note of the direction of this. You could grab a pair of vice grips or whatever and turn it and get it to line up, or if you just take this and sit it on this way, because then you can line it up with the hole and then run your bolt through. I'll be anti-seizing all that stuff too. So basically, I'm going to get this done. I'm going to set the height of this with a tape measure like I did for the rear. Then we're going to get everything assembled and back together. All right, here we go. Got to put a couple zip ties on here, but I'll be having this apart again to actually install the axle. But we centered out our steering, kind of eyed this up, so that's going to get us pretty straight. We already have our height somewhat set. Like I said, that'll get a zip tie. And everything is on here, our new line. We are going to be having to finish bleeding out the brakes before we move this. This is the driver's side. So everything's tightened out, it's done. All we have to do is do the passenger side yet. And we'll have all of the suspension stuff done that we wanted to do to this, minus waiting on our rear end links. So I'm just going to cut this one here. If I get this other side done, I'll probably just throw that in there so you can see what it looks like. And like I said, we got to bleed this out. So once I get everything together, I'll take and I will fill my brake reservoir, and I'll take care of bleeding out the entire system. It'll be flushed through with all new fluid, which is something that's good for a car that is nearly 20 years old, to do a full flush on their brakes. That fluid should be clear, not brown. I'm planning to actually flush out the brake fluid out of the clutch master cylinder here also. That way I know there's not going to be any issues down the road, and that will be all taken care of. So I'm going to get this other side done.